maintain trust, you must first earn it. And earning trust at a global scale demands leadership. Because California is more than a marketplace. It is a global risk transfer ecosystem built on confidence, integrity, and collaboration. Every detail matters. When the standard you set becomes the standard others follow. In moments of uncertainty, leadership requires agility without compromise, the ability to adapt while preserving integrity. To maintain trust is to achieve balance between access and accountability, innovation and oversight, speed and responsibility. Our market must remain healthy, competitive, and fair. Otherwise, we fail. Welcome to the Surplus Line Association of California's 2026 annual meeting, where we are all in, safeguarding the world's largest regulated E&S market. Please welcome the CEO and Executive Director of the Surplus Line Association of California, Benjamin J. McKay.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you all for being here at our annual meeting. As you can see, incredible turnout. First ever time that we've sold this event out. So congratulations, you're at a historic event. So you've got that to check off today. So we are your association, but we also are a stamping office, which means we're the advisory organization for the California Department of Insurance. And in those dual roles, we get audited, examined, reviewed, judged on a regular basis. And we just had a months-long examination conclude, and at the conclusion of this examination, the owner of the examining company and the chief examiner got David Kadam and I on the phone on a Teams call and said, look, I've never said this before, but this is the best organization we've ever examined. And then she said some other stuff, but it just sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher, I don't know, you know. And I don't know how, but somehow I knew the call had concluded, and I guess David did too. Our offices are right next to each other. We both sort of come running out. I'm like, did she say what I think she said? And he's like, I think she said what you think she said. And he said, but you know it's not us, right? And I said, what do you mean it's not us? And he said, well, they interviewed a bunch of our employees. He goes, that's why they think we're so great. And I was like, really, David? You can't give me a minute? You can't let me feel good about myself for a minute. I'm like, what, are we married? So, but he was right. It is about our employees. That's what makes this organization great, right? It's the people that make this industry great. And that's all of you that are here. And we do have employees who are here, so I hope you'll take a minute or two and get to talk to them if you haven't already. But let's talk about why the room is so full. This industry has been going gangbusters, bananas, for about a decade and a half. We've had double-digit growth year over year over year over year. And about 10 years ago, we started asking ourselves, is this a temporary change or is this a structural change, right? Is this going to shift back? Because as most of you know, there's certain things we absolutely can write, certain lines of business, and some we absolutely can't. And then there's the stuff in between, right? So shipping and anything on the export list, we can write. Then there's personal auto and workers' comp. We can't write that. And then everything else in the middle, you have to go get declinations. And that's how you can sort of judge on how the market's flowing from the admitted to the non-admitted markets and back and forth. And so skip ahead 15 years, and we're pretty confident that that was a structural change. Like, that shift happened, and it's not gonna shift back. I mean, obviously, it always does this. It toggles. But we think on the commercial side, that was a shift that's gonna stick. So more recently, we've seen another phenomenon, which is personal lines. And we've seen the growth in the last decade of personal lines from being 1.5% of our book, of the surplus lines market, to 10%, which is a huge shift. And so the question is, the same question, is that a structural shift or a temporary shift? And you hear the admitted carriers talking about, oh, they're going to come back into the market, but you don't see any evidence of more policies being written by them. I saw someone last night who works for an admitted carrier in California. They pulled out of personal lines. So I'm not seeing the evidence that it's going back. So then you ask yourself, what could happen that could cause it to shift back? Well, you could have a law change, a regulatory change, especially on a personal lines insurance, because it's a highly regulated industry. So could that happen? Could you, for instance, repeal Prop 103 or modify it? And we've seen just a few months ago, there was an attempt to do just that. And it was shot down almost immediately by the interveners. And so we now have a test case to suggest that that's not going to happen. So if that's not going to happen, does this then become a permanent shift? Why does that matter to those of you in this room? And why does it matter to us as your association? Well, it matters because there's different rules that apply to personal lines versus commercial lines, right? Different laws, cancellation, notification laws, they're different. But I would say even more important than that is the perception's different, and how personal lines are treated in the eyes of the public, in the eyes of regulators, in the eyes of legislators is different. The expectation is greater, right? The way we conduct ourselves has to be better. We're held to a higher standard. And I'm not sure that the E&S market is ready for that. I'm not sure that we're 100% all in on how we would handle those claims and those risks. And so as your association, one of the things that I'm hopeful that we can do is through our education function, which is one of our most important functions, is to educate you on this space and in this space. Because it can reputationally be critical, right? We exist, E&S exists because the statute says we exist. The statute could say we don't exist. It could say all business has to be written on an admitted basis. That could happen. So we have to hold ourselves to a very high standard if we want that to not happen. So we have this one shift, structural shift in commercial lines. Second shift, potentially structural in personal lines. We don't know, we'll see. Certainly something we talk about at lunch. But that puts California, it makes our market enormous, hence sold out room, right? So surely that means California is the center of the insurance universe. Not so much. If you're going to ask anybody what are the centers of the universe for insurance, they're going to say, start with London, right? That's where it was invented, right? The specialty marketplace. Then you're going to come across the pond to New York, financial center of the world. And then you're going to keep going, and you're going to land in Singapore. And then Saudi Arabia tried to make a pitch to be the center of the insurance universe, but their laws were bad, so that didn't happen. They don't have the talent, so you have to bring in expats. Certain countries have lots of insurance talent. Countries like, say, California. If we were a country, we'd be the 5th largest country on the globe. We're bigger than all of those countries I just named as a state. And yet, for some reason, they're the center of insurance and not us. Why? Why? What can we do about that? And should we do something about it? I think, of course, I'm self-interested, but I would say yes, we should do something about it. I'm at dinner last night, I'm looking out the window of the restaurant, and there's Wells Fargo on the building across the street. I'm thinking to myself, oh, there's a great California institution that now is in Florida. I'm like, that's not right. And then I'm thinking about going to my office, and our office in San Ramon is right across the street from this giant empty campus that used to say Chevron. And then I read a report that says, we're going to lose 4 congressional seats in the next census because of the flight, because of the exodus of people. Well, I thought there's nothing we could do about that, right? That's not our industry. But what we can do is focus on us and our industry. What can we do in California to make this industry prosper and great? And a lot of people say, well, regulatory environment isn't great, that's why everybody's leaving. Yeah, but there's countervailing strengths, right? We have all this talent. We have a great legal system, right? The reason that places like the Middle East can't compete with us is because it's just not a fair playing field, aka your antitrust admonition. They're too corrupt. It's hard to do business in places like that. You're willing to take the hit, paying a little more regulation, a little more cost of regulation to have those protections. So I would suggest to you, and I'll commit to you, this should be one of the centers of the insurance universe, certainly on the specialty side. We shouldn't be ceding that ground to places like Dubai and Singapore. Okay, it should be us. So, as your association, I just want to make sure that you understand that we're all in, committed to you, committed to making this the center of the insurance universe for you. But we need your partnership. We need you to understand that you're being held to a higher and higher standard as surplus lines comes out of the shadows and into the mainstream, as evidenced most obviously by the personal lines growth, which is something we can't hide from. So with that, we've got a great program coming up. We've got a great speaker. He's going to be talking more about AI from the technical side. What I want to talk about is being all in from the personal commitment side. Because the only way that we're going to achieve that vision is if we are intentional and we commit, all of us, to making this the best marketplace in the world. So, thank you very much. Thank you for being here.